So we have some more wide receiver news for the Packers. It seems like this is happening now pretty much every day. The Packers are actually going to be meeting with George Pickens for a pre-draft visit. And now in the past few days, or the past week or so, the Packers have met with Treylon Burks from Arkansas, Tyquan Thornton from Baylor, the really speedy guy. Yesterday also came out about them meeting with Nebraska, Samurai Toure as well. And so now George Pickens, who I think has a potential to be one of the better receivers in this class, is meeting with the Packers. It came out here from Bill Huber of Sports Illustrated, saying the Green Bay Packers are bringing in one of the top receiver prospects, George Pickens, for a pre-draft visit this week. So George Pickens, 6'3", 195 pounds. According to some consensus rankings from NFL Draft Buzz, he is ranked as the 7th overall receiver, 47th overall in the entire draft board, and has a 9.33 RAS, which is relative athletic score, which basically just measures, how good of an athlete basically you are, with 10 being the highest. So he's a very, very good athlete. The only concern with him is the torn ACL that he did suffer back in March of 2021, and he missed most of the season until the regular season finale. He was able to come back, and so I think lots of people said that before that injury, they really saw him as one of the better prospects in the coming into this draft class, but the injury has definitely put him down a little, with a little bit more uncertainty with him suffering that ACL injury. But here is a little excerpt about him from the Draft Wire. This is what they say. Pickens is one of the best receivers in a deep class, especially when it comes to tracking and adjusting his body to the football and going to get it. He uses top-tier body control, length, and hand strength to adjust to deep balls at any time, and almost always comes down with the catch. His deep ball catches jump out on film, while his catch radius and focus to the ball is ridiculous. In his routes, Pickens is smooth off the press, using his longer arms to swat away smaller defensive backs before transitioning into his route in a fluid motion. His route running excels at the second level, where he bursts into his break points, whether that be on inside routes or deeper outside ones. He almost never loses momentum when tracking the ball on these routes either, leading to heaps of explosive plays. So with the Packers meeting with so many different receivers and with there being so many options in this draft, I'm honestly excited to see what the Packers actually decide to do, because we can imagine and dream about what could potentially happen, but obviously we're not going to know until the draft actually comes up and the Packers actually come in and make their picks, which now isn't too far away. It's like 20-ish days away now for the draft. And so I'm pumped. I'm excited to see who the Packers decide to get at wide receiver. And so George Pickens, I think he could be a guy that could go at the end of the first round, maybe fall into the second round, depending on, how many receivers start flying off the board in the first round. And I wouldn't be opposed to the Packers adding George Pickens to this roster, as honestly, there are lots of receivers that I like who, could end up in Green Bay. And so I'm wondering what Gutekunst in that scouting department is thinking. They probably have their eye on a few guys, and I trust their judgment much more than my judgment, because they spend their day watching film constantly, scouting players. So I'm excited to see who they think is the better receiver, who they think will fit in Green Bay, because obviously character, all these other things fit into it as well. Can the player be a guy who, comes into Green Bay, Wisconsin, and, sort of get around in that atmosphere? So obviously they know so much more about these guys. They, have meetings. They get to know a lot about these players. So I'm just excited to see who the Packers decide to pick. Maybe it's George Pickens. If it is, I think he could be a really, really good player. There is some concern with his ACL, but I feel like lots of times players come back from those, and I guess there's always the worry that maybe they aren't as dominant as they once were. But from his highlights, he looks like a beast. He looks like a monster, and he looks like a guy who could be eventually, the number one receiver for the Packers, if he can develop into that coming into the next, couple seasons, if he does come to Green Bay. But that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you guys want to see more Packers content, and I'll see you guys next time.